Hello friends, today we're in for a little bit of a different vlog video. I'm actually sitting down with y'all for this one because it's not really a vlog at all. This video is all about some books that I read over the last 3 months because I participated in the Goodreads Winter Challenge. If you're not familiar with Goodreads and these challenges, basically every quarter they put out a bunch of different challenges where you have to read a book from a select list of things, and they all have different categories and themes. And I kind of treated this as an exercise in expanding what I read, because in general I tend to like to read fantasy, sci-fi, dystopian, romance, contemporary sort of stuff, but that's quite a narrow field when it comes to books, and so I wanted to see what was out there, give these challenges a try, and push myself out of my reading comfort zone. And I did just that because I got 11 of the 12 challenges for the January to March period done. I was so close to getting all 12, but I had only read about half of the final book when March passed over to April, and I did not get that one, unfortunately, but I can still talk about all of the different books that I read for each of these different challenges. The first couple of challenges are always about the amount of books you read, and I read what I think is a lot. I have at least 2 books on the go at one time, a physical reading book and usually an audiobook, and I was definitely gonna get these first few done easily. I think it's read 2 books, 3 books, and 5 books, which easy, done it. So those were just a walk in the park, and these next ones are where I started to have to read specific things. I've got my notes here so I can remember everything, but the first challenge was challenge favorites, and so it was reading one of the top books from 2025, and so it had a huge list of different options of things that you can read, and the book I picked for that was Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, and I really enjoyed this book. It's a psych thriller about a woman's shocking act of violence against her husband, and then she immediately goes fully silent and gets sent to a psychiatric ward, and it's kind of told from the point of view of the therapist who's joined into this psych ward to specifically treat this silent patient. And you're kind of going through the whole thing and trying to figure out why she committed this really violent act. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I ended up giving this book 4 stars because I do like myself a psych thriller, and I wasn't expecting the twist. That's kind of the main criteria for me with psych thrillers. There needs to be some sort of twist, and I really liked the twist in this one. I wasn't expecting pretty much any of it to happen. Obviously, all of these reviews are going to be spoiler free, so I can't say too much more on it without giving things away, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend it, and I can totally see why it was in the challenge favorites list from last year. The next one was called Choice Archive, and I needed to read a book from the archive of past Goodreads Choice winners or nominees. If you didn't know, it's something that happens at the end of each calendar year. Goodreads puts out this big poll of the best books of that year, or that came out in that specific year, and people vote on them, and there's Goodreads Choice winners and nominees and stuff like that. It's kind of a bit of a popularity contest, but it's still good. These books are popular for a reason. Typically they are quite good. And for that, I actually read a physical book. So the rest of the books on this list are audiobooks because that is how I generally read non-fantasy stuff. But Ninth House is a book that I have had on my shelf for ages. I got it a while ago because I'm obsessed with this snake on my cover. It's by Leah Bardugo, who also wrote Six of Crows and That Little Duology. I really thoroughly loved that, and so I've had this on my shelf for ages, wanting to read it because it sounds right up my alley, and it so was. It's kind of contemporary fantasy where there is a magic system in the contemporary world. It's about this college-age girl who is found basically next to her dead / murdered / overdosed friends, and she's given the second chance at life to attend Yale and be part of the society that monitors and polices the other secret societies. And the catch is, the magic is, all of these secret societies are doing crazy stuff with magic and ghosts, and it's really interesting to see. And Everything changes when someone dies, and the main character, Alex, is trying to figure out what happened to this girl, because she suspects something foul is at play, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't want to ruin the mystery for you, but I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It is 5 stars for sure, and luckily the sequel to this has just come up on my Libby, so I will be able to read that very soon, which I'm very much looking forward to, seeing what happens down the line with the lovely Alex Stern. Highly recommend it. So 5 stars to Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. The next challenge was Lasting Reads, aka read a popular book from the last 25 years, which there were a lot of things to choose from in this category, and I actually chose Four Winds by Kirsten Hanna. She's an author that I've read previously. She wrote The Women, which is a story about women in Vietnam. That doesn't count. I think it might have also been on the list, but I already read it. So Four Winds was already on my radar before this challenge, and so it was a really easy pick for this one. It's basically a story about a family in Texas during the Dust Bowl Great Depression area, and they're a farming family, and they have to make a decision about, do they want to stay and potentially starve and dehydrate to death and get dust pneumonia in the Dust Bowl, or do they want to move west and see if they can find a better life out there? And this book, I really enjoyed it, but I think I enjoyed it after the fact, because I think a massive tool of this book is the monotony and boredom and tiredness of it, because you are kind of experiencing the Dust Bowl and this difficult life and the tiredness at the same time with the characters, because it just felt like it went on for a little bit too long. But looking back at it, I feel like that was a good literary device. I don't know if that was the intention. If it wasn't, then makes it worse. But there was a big chunk in the middle area where I was just I would love to put this book down. I'm not really feeling it. But then things pick up a little bit more, and I very much so enjoyed the story at the end. And looking back on my reading experience, I do think that sort of tedium in the middle was intentional, and so I gave this book 4 stars because I thought it was really good. I do like Kristen Hanna as an author. I like that she writes stories about women in history. I mean, it's all historical fiction, but still, I like that they're very women-centric stories, and kind of looking at these sort of forgotten people of history, at least. So I enjoyed it. I would recommend it. Just beware that the middle is a little bit not grating, but it's a bit of a slog there in the middle. From here on out, I was basically picking books that I could get audiobooks of in time to read for the challenge, and so these are now things that weren't on my radar. I wouldn't have necessarily picked for myself had they not been for the challenge. The next challenge is Star Selections, aka a bunch of books that have been previously picked for celebrity book clubs, and the book that I picked for this one was The 3 Lives of Kate K by Kate Fagan. I don't know what celebrity book club it was in, but I will pop it on the screen because it might be relevant. But it's the story of an elusive best-selling author who finally decides to reveal her identity after she was hiding from her past. And it is a bit of an LGBT love story as well, and so I really enjoyed that. I love an LGBT story. Representation is huge, and so I'm all here for it. I quite liked this one. It's kind of framed as a fictional memoir, and so you're kind of getting the fictional author's memoir and history and all of the troubled past and how it comes forward. It was really enjoyable. I gave this book 4 stars. Cosmo, I know you want to play, but now's not the time. Yeah, I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was good and entertaining. It's kind of contemporary fiction, so it's generally a good time. I don't even know what else to say about this. It's weird. I really enjoyed it, but I've kind of forgotten about it a little bit. I'd still give it 4 stars though. I enjoyed it. The next challenge was a romance one called Swoony Stories, and so you got to pick from a list of romance novels. Oh no. And the one I picked was Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. It's a classic rivals to lovers story, which I love. A good enemies to lovers. My favorite. I like when they don't like each other at the beginning and you just slowly have to get through that tension. And it's about 2 teachers / writers who are rivals that have to team up to solve some problems, and you can have a guess at what happens there. I don't want to spoil it, but it's a romance novel. And I only gave this one 3 stars. It was fine to read. I had an okay time, but sometimes with rivals to lovers, like you get rivals who like already secretly think the other's like really attractive. And I was like, is that really rivals then? Like, I know you don't like each other, but like you think each other's hot and stuff already. Like, you know what's gonna happen. I much prefer like where they're actually rivals or like actually enemies, where they don't like each other, they can't find any redeeming qualities about each other, and then they slowly fall in love. That's my personal brand of enemies to lovers. This one was not that. It was the first one where they already find each other attractive, so it's like you kind of already know what's gonna happen. Like that, like there's conflicting feelings, but like not really at the same time. So that's why it only got 3 stars, because it was a little bit predictable on like what was gonna happen. And I mean, we all knew it was gonna be a romance novel, but like it was very obvious from the start what was gonna happen. This next one was a little bit of a weird challenge. It was called Persona Picks, and I've got my notes here because I can't remember this off the top of my head. I had to read a personality recommendations, and basically they just had a bunch of different personality styles, and within that there was like 4 or 6 books from each personality style, and like you just had to pick one. So I chose the Eternal Optimist reader. It has to have a happily ever after. Again, romance novel, happily ever after, I'm fine with that. It's not something that I'm like obsessed with, but it was one that I could find a book that was like within the category in the time frame. And so I read Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez? Sorry, I'm terrible with names. So I read that. It's basically a long distance romance where these 2 people meet the day before one of them moves across the country to go take care of her like dementia-ridden mother. So the 2,000 Miles Away is set in the US, and they know that they're perfect for each other, but they just live really far. And so it's a long distance romance, which I've never actually read a long distance romance before, I don't think. So that was new territory for me, and I personally gave this one 3 stars. I don't think I necessarily like long distance romance. It's not a trope that I feel like I need to go back and read again. It's just kind of like circumstances aren't right, and like the only thing that they're trying to figure out is like logistics on how to see each other in this time. And so that is like, the frustration wasn't from like a sexual tension point of view, which is what I prefer in my romance novels. It was more just like the situation, which is like kind of anxiety inducing. So I did only give this one 3 stars. Again, the book was perfectly fine. I just don't think it was like a top book for me. So like pretty average score, 3 stars. This is where it got a little bit difficult because they don't release all of these challenges right at the beginning of January for you to complete before March. They do like introduce some as they go along, and I think Tail Spinners was part of that. That's the next challenge. It was read a retelling, and there was a bunch of different options from like retellings of like Greek and Roman mythology and other like folklore and stuff like that. I read The Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan, and it's just a fantasy-inspired legend about, surprise, surprise, the daughter of the moon goddess in Chinese legend. And that journey pits her against the most powerful immortal in the realm, and so she has to go through these trials and tribulations to try and get her mother free. And it's one that I've seen on fantasy shelves before. It wasn't like a new like cover for me when I was picking it out. I enjoyed it. Will I read the sequel? I don't know. Potentially. Like, I'm not gonna say no. Like, if it came up, yeah, sure, I'd read it. Like, am I going and seeking it out like I did with the Ninth House sequel? No. It was good. I gave it 4 stars in the end. I enjoyed it. It's fantasy. It's more in my sort of traditional realm of like books that I like. But like I said, I don't know if I would actively seek out reading more of this story. These last 2, I was really not sure if I was going to get in time. It was like the last week of March at this point, and I'm just like reading my audiobook constantly in order to try and squeeze these in. The next one was Black Heritage in honor of Black History Month in February, and so you had to read a book to celebrate that. And so there was a bunch of different books from Black authors in there, and this one, because it was so late in the month, I was super limited on what I could get like now that I would actually be interested in reading, because I didn't want to just like pick something random and like have a bad time with it. But the book that I ended up reading was Dream Count by Chimamanda Ngozi, Adichie. I think I've pronounced that right. I'm so sorry if I haven't. But this is a story about 4 different Black women reflecting on like the choices they've made in sort of love and romance that got them to where they are today, and the potential struggles that they are currently facing. And all of these 4 women are like interconnected. They are in each other's lives. Where I struggled with this book a little bit is I kind of wish it was kind of going back and forth between the different women, but it was like the first woman is the first quarter of the book, and then the next woman is the next quarter of the book. So they were very much so segmented out. I think I just wish that they were interspersed throughout, because not that it's like a linear story by any means, because it's these people reflecting, but I feel like it could have been paced differently, potentially. The stories themselves I found individually compelling. There also wasn't really that much resolution to the story, and I don't think I'm alone in some of these criticisms. Like, the idea is there, but I don't know if the execution was. This one does have some not great reviews on Goodreads. I gave it 3 stars in the end. Again, I had an okay time. I wasn't like having a bad time during it. I wasn't like struggling to try and finish it. Like, I wanted to know what happened, but I didn't really feel satisfied with it in the end, and so that's why I'm giving it a nice middle of the road 3 stars. And then the last challenge was Her Story, which is the one you had the least amount of time to do, because it was to read a book for Women's History Month, which is the month of March. And so you only had between the beginning of March and the end of March to like know what the like options were. And if any of you use Libby and like put books on hold on there, you know, getting a book within 2 weeks or within 4 weeks even is not an easy feat. And so finding a book that would fit into this category that I could get in time, nigh impossible. I'm pretty sure I got this book on like the 28th or 29th of March. And so it was a little bit tight, and there was kind of no way I was going to be able to finish this book in time. The book that I started reading for this one was The Furies, Women, Vengeance, and Justice by Elizabeth Flock. And this is investigating the role and necessity of female-led violence in response to systems created against women. And so again, this one was exploring multiple different stories of 3 different women who have used violence to sort of solve their problems. One of which is a woman who murdered her sexual assaultist and what happens after that. And then there was a woman in India who started a gang that beat up men with canes because they were bad people and like abusing and stuff like that. And so looking at that. And then the third one was about a woman in Syria. And I'm gonna be fully honest here. Once I wasn't able to actually finish this book in March, once it was April 1st, I didn't finish reading it. Like, I thought the stories were interesting, but because it was one that I wouldn't have necessarily picked out if it weren't for the challenge, I just kind of DNF'd it. I didn't feel like I needed to continue with it, which I do feel a little bit bad about, but not at the same time. I thought the way it was written was really good. It kind of felt like listening to a true crime podcast, which I really like those. I haven't listened to one in ages, but I really enjoy true crime podcasts, and so it kind of gave that vibe. It's just a recounting of these women and like, I guess, somewhat admiration for them, which is totally fine. I think that's totally fair, but like, I just didn't feel the need to finish it, and so I didn't. And like, I'm okay with that. I'm getting to the point in my reading journey where I am accepting that I don't have to finish every book I start. I can DNF something if I'm not enjoying it. If I have another option to read that I want to read more, I can. And so essentially I had another option to read because I knew I wasn't going to finish the challenge anyway. And so I started listening to that instead. And you know, I'm not mad about it. And I probably would have given this book 3 stars in the end. There was like nothing wrong with the pacing or the writing of it. Like, it was fine. I just didn't feel the need to finish, and so I didn't. So there we go. Those are all of the books I read for the Goodreads Winter Challenge. And a couple of final thoughts. Would I do the challenge again? Am I like jonesing to get into the next challenge, the spring challenge? No. I like had a cursory look at the options, but nothing was like screaming at me. And so if I happen to read a book that's on the challenge list, fantastic. But if I don't, I'm not jonesing for it. Is it something that I would do again in the future? Potentially, yes. I might be a little bit more selective with it and not like try and get all of them because I don't really feel like I need to. But it was a fun thing to kind of get me out of my reading comfort zone and force me to read things that are not what I would normally pick up. Unfortunately, it did kind of reiterate why I don't pick up some things in some cases, and so is that bad? I don't know. I might do it again in the future if I'm trying to, again, expand my reading horizons, or if I'm just like stuck for what to read. It's a good place to go to look for like a list of books that people have loved, or like I especially liked the like earlier categories that were like previous Goodreads choice winners, or like things on celebrity book clubs, those kind of things. It's like those have been chosen for a reason. They are books that a lot of people have liked and read, and they were picked for reasons. When it got down to the women's history and the Black history books, there didn't seem to be as much rhyme or reason on the like selections of them. Like they weren't just like the best books from Black authors in the last 25 years. Like some of the books, they had like 1,000 ratings on Goodreads. Some of them had 10,000. Like there wasn't really any rhyme or reason, and not all of them were rated well either on Goodreads. And so it's possible that that is indicative of a wider problem, that these books aren't being pushed out by Goodreads and like the standard book industry, and so that's why they don't have as many ratings, or they aren't rated as well or something. But I just like I don't know. I don't have the words for it. Maybe it's a bigger systemic issue that Goodreads isn't going to solve. I'm personally not going to solve on my own, other than trying to read as much as possible by as diverse an authorship and like subject matter as possible, within reason, because reading is a hobby and I want to enjoy it and I want to have fun with it. And so yeah, those are kind of my final thoughts on this. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did and you liked this sort of like collective, like what I read in the last 3 months sort of thing. If you did, I can make more of these, because in my vlogs, I definitely don't talk about every single book that I am reading, and like you don't always catch me like when I finish a book and I can talk about it. So if you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on books, I can do more videos like this in the future. It's also kind of nice to just do like a sit down video for this channel, because I don't really normally do that. So yeah, I hope you did enjoy. Let me know down below in the comments if you did. Also give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more bookish / vlogish content. If you want more, just subscribe, please. I'm working really hard on this channel as like a sort of side hustle, and I'm really enjoying it, and so I hope you are as well. So yeah, anyways, I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!